to put up this event. Before I start my keynote, I would like to thank all of the attendees for joining and would strongly urge everyone, Toastmasters, who, who you think needs this training in order to learn more about pathways. There is still time. They can still join this training and we can all learn together. So, slow and steady wins the race. Yes, if you're steady, but you keep at it, you keep going, you will ultimately win the race. That is all what we've learned. Imagine this guy. Will he win a race? Will he ever win a race? Only in fairy tales. Because that's where miracles happen. Unfortunately, they don't happen in real life. In real life, steadiness is good, but simply enough. Instead, in order to get to space, you have to escape Earth's gravity. In order to do that, you have to travel at the speed of at least 24,000 miles per hour. There's no getting around it. Any speed less than that, and you just keep running on Earth. And if that's what the goal of your life is, fine. But steadiness alone will not get you anywhere. Speed is equally important in every aspect of life, although that speed should be your own speed and not someone else's speed. We will get to that in a bit. As many of you will know, recently I completed my second and third DTM certification. And it seemed that suddenly it dawned on the world that titles are not important. Oh, no, no, no. Certificates, titles, they don't mean a thing. Instead, your skill means everything. And while there's nothing wrong with that, when you hear this immediately after telling someone that you just scored your second and third DTM, something's amiss. Those are noble thoughts. And of course, in Toastmasters, we recognize the value of humanity above all. We recognize the value of desire to help, the desire to serve above any title. Which raises the question, why did I go for second and third DTM after the first? Was there any real need? Of course not. Does it add anything to your profile? Does TI actually anoint you as DTM square or cube? Absolutely not. Let me tell you why. I wanted to learn more. And in the process of learning more and serving more, this was a happy side effect. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with happy side effects, as long as they end up making this world a better place for you and those who you are serving. So there is this lingering question in every Toastmaster's mind. Why become a DTM, especially those who have just delivered their pathways? Let me share a story from my life, from my earlier life, because we Toastmasters know that there are two phases to our lives, pre-Toastmasters and post-Toastmasters. There's no post-Toastmasters, of course. There's always that point where once you're a Toastmaster, you're always a Toastmaster. By profession, I'm a chartered accountant, and many people in the audience are chartered accountants. When I started my articleship with an audit firm, I used to travel by bus, and many people who had cleared the various stages of chartered accountancy, we met them in firms or offices or at clients, and we used to look at them like they were gods. Seriously. We used to inspect them closely. Was it anything different about their skin? Were they by any chance aliens? Or did they dress differently or talk differently? Or was there a halo around their head? And yes, invariably, for a 19-year-old who was starting out on the journey to chartered accountancy, fully qualified chartered accountants appeared fatter, balder, and hairier, and much less fit than I was. But other than that, disappointingly, they turned out to be human beings. What did they do to become chartered accountants? Were they all geniuses? Of course not. Evidence is right before you. Did they have good connections? Or did they have access to some specific course or curriculum that ordinary mortals did not have? Absolutely not. They did only one thing, and that is they kept up their speed. They kept up their motivation. They never gave up. Never giving up or steadiness is a good thing, but that alone is not enough. You have to study. And just like chartered accountancy, with Toastmasters also, you have to study. You have to study the Pathways curriculum, and you have to keep delivering projects. That is my mantra. Projects, projects, projects will get you to DTM. Other than that, you can do endless evaluations. You can do table topic sessions until people are rolling on the floor, but that won't make you a DTM. You have to deliver projects. You have to lead teams. You have to serve in a club. And in full-fledged districts, you have to serve in your district. You have to assist in establishing a club. You have to sponsor a club, or you have to conduct a speechcraft session or a youth leadership session, and only then you will get to DTM. You won't get to DTM just by doing spectacular speeches alone. So anyone who is listening and who is embarked on this journey towards DTM, my only message to you is you have it in you to make it to DTM. There's absolutely no reason you should not become a DTM. The only things that you need to do is, number one, plan out your journey. You need to look at all the pathways. You need to look at your two pathways. You have to look at the requirements, which is, I will share a slide with you to better explain to you the requirements of becoming a DTM. And yeah, here it is. I hope everyone can see this. Okay. So first is the education session, complete 2 parts and complete the DTM project. And trust me, these are the easiest parts because you can simply do them by being a member and doing speeches and projects. Then there's club leadership. You have to serve as a club officer for a 12-month term or 2 6-month terms. Then in full-fledged districts, there's a requirement of serving as a district officer, which is any officer who is an area director or a division director or finance manager, admin manager, or PR manager, or one of the district trio. But right now, that requirement does not apply to us. And trust me, you don't want to wait till a point at which this requirement starts applying to us. Because it's not easy to become a district officer, and there are only so many slots for district officers. Not everyone who is on a journey to DTM can become a district officer. They will have their turn, but not necessarily next year. Perhaps they'll have to wait another year or another year. And to become a district officer, you have to have a good service record first and foremost. And then you have to participate in club extension. You have to serve as a club sponsor or a speechcraft coordinator or a youth leadership coordinator. And all 3 of these projects have one common thread, which is assisting in formation of new clubs. And then there's club support, club mentor or club coach. And let me tell you, club mentor is a 6-month long assignment and club coach can be 3 months long or it can be 3 years long because you have to adopt a club and you have to guide it from a state of trouble to a state of distinction. So you won't get that certification until that makes it to a distinguished club. So have I scared you enough? That was the point, mission accomplished. But the idea was not to scare you at all. The idea was to motivate everyone to plan out your journeys. You have to plan out your journey. Sit down with your VP education, sit down with your president, and talk to them that you want to become a distinguished Toastmaster, how to go about it. And trust me, when you have planned out your journey, that is 50% of the job done. Again, I absolutely loathe making a mention of my achievements. But sometimes I've realized, and that too in Toastmasters, that you have to do it only because there is a degree of motivation for other people for them. So the way I planned my simultaneous DTM certifications is very simple. First of all, I picked up the pathways. Second, I made sure that I was serving on club XComs. So I've served as a VP Education, VP PR, VP Membership, and President. I also made sure that I was either establishing new clubs or in touch with people who were establishing new clubs. And this is very, very important. Let me give you an example. You just don't get DTMs for doing 14 or 15 or 30 speeches. You actually have to establish new clubs or at least be instrumental in establishing new clubs. So I established one club, then I established another club with a university, and then I assisted a corporate entity in establishing their club, and I mentored 2 clubs for 6 months. Meanwhile, I was doing the pathways, I was doing the DTM projects. One DTM project I did within Toastmaster Circle, which was actually rescuing a club. And rescuing a club means having club coaches or mentors appointed and then following up with them. And in one instance, I did the DTM project in my own company with my own team outside of Toastmasters. And then, of course, I had the club service credits. So that was not that much difficult, but club mentoring, you know, you can easily ask anyone who is establishing a club to be their mentor. But actually, what you have to do in order to really earn that mentor credit is to be there for the club, to train their XCOM, and to actually be a participant in getting that club up to speed. And let me tell you the truth, you can easily get a mentor credit even without doing all that. But would you have earned it? In Toastmasters, you have to earn everything. And in order to earn everything, you have to apply the effort to earn that accolade. So Toastmasters is not a magic wand. It is actually the Hogwarts school, which trains you in magic. Toastmasters is not a treasure chest. It is actually a set of tools which allows you to dig into yourself and bring out the treasure. You have to invest time and effort. I will say that again. You have to invest time and effort. There are several Toastmasters who have come to all of us and they say that, we have been attending Toastmasters for 6 months, but we see no improvement. I'm sorry, improvement won't come until you actually work at it. Toastmasters is all about work. It is not a social circle. It's not a networking platform. It is not there to entertain you. Yes, those are happy side effects, but primarily Toastmasters is an education initiative and you should take it like one. The club leaderships, the district leaderships, and all Toastmasters should take it as seriously as an education initiative. And once you change and tweak your mindset towards that, you will notice the results instantly, because then you will actually read each and every aspect of a project, and you will actually download that project and hand it over to your evaluator that, this is how I want to be evaluated. I know of many senior Toastmasters who are not DTMs or who don't even have a title, but they have been in Toastmasters for years. And some of them have mentored me and many others, and they are an endless source of inspiration. I call them, for want of a better word, I call them the mystics or malangs. You know what a malang is? A malang or a darvish is someone who doesn't want anything in life. Their one sole purpose is to help others. And that is the pinnacle of humanity. But it's pinnacle for a reason. It's lonely at the top. It's like this. There are so few people at that pinnacle. Why do you want to be on that pinnacle? Are you even in the right mindset to be on the giving end without any consideration? There's a reason Toastmaster has a mechanism of continuous feedback and rewards. There's a reason Toastmasters has a plaque for DTM. There's a reason Toastmasters has a certificate for every level completion. It might not be your primary target, but there's no shame in celebrating these achievements. There's absolutely no shame in going after that beautiful plaque or that beautiful pin, which is microscopic, by the way, of having introduced 15 members or 10 members. There's absolutely no harm in that. That is the one vital last bit of sweetener that actually keeps you going. And there's a reason Toastmasters has that system. Again, I can talk all I want about my DTMs and other DTMs, but actually, what gives me more pleasure is that during my 4-year journey, I was able to introduce or sponsor 100 Toastmasters to the community. I was able to establish 2 clubs. I was able to rescue 2 clubs, and I have been a mentor to 2 clubs. Uh, and somehow that gives me the greatest pride. The reason I was able to do that, though, was not because I had something special in me. It was only because I was willing to put in the time and effort, and I remained active within the club. I remained active within the club by continuously giving speeches until I found out that I simply cannot stop giving speeches. And that is the primary reason I picked up one pathway after another. Honestly, it was not because I wanted to score a DTM. But then what happened was, when I had completed the first 2 pathways, I thought to myself, okay, now I need to do a DTM project and a club mentor and a club sponsor role, and I'll have another DTM. And so that was that vital last bit of sweetener that actually benefited the whole community, because that resulted in formation of a new club, and that resulted in training of a new executive committee. So there's no harm in that. If you want something for yourself, there's no harm in wanting it. But in Toastmasters, first you need to give, and only then you recover. You invest in yourself, you invest in your community, and only then you reap the rewards. And sometimes you have to forget about the rewards in order to earn the rewards. That is the reality of life. That is the reality of servant leadership. In order to be a good communicator, you have to forget about being a good communicator. Instead, you have to remember the audience. You have to actually put yourself in the shoes of the audience in order to be an effective communicator. And that means that you won't be listening to yourself. You will be listening to the audience, and you'll be looking at their faces. So you've forgotten yourself. Similarly, in order to be a leader, you have to forget about being a leader, especially in a voluntary organization in Toastmasters. Because in Toastmasters, a leader doesn't sit on top of everyone else. and just order around. Instead, a leader in Toastmasters is the one who has to do the most work and who has to do the most for the community. In Toastmasters, a leadership position is not there to celebrate a person. A leadership position is to burden that person that much more. And it is a beautiful relationship because ultimately the reward is to actually serve dozens and hundreds of people by extension. So when you mentor a Toastmaster, and ultimately that Toastmaster mentors another person, apply simple mathematics and see that if you mentor 5 people, pretty much, and if you mentor 5 people for 6 months and they go on to mentor 2 people each, pretty soon, within 6 months, you will have potentially 100 mentees or 200 mentees for whom you started the journey. So that is the beautiful part of Toastmasters, and that is why becoming DTM is important, because you end up serving community so much on the way. That is the one single reason to become DTM. You don't do speeches just for yourself, but you establish clubs, you train XComs, you serve on club XComs, you serve in a district leadership role, you conduct speechcraft or youth leadership, and you make this world a better place. And if you get a beautiful plaque at the end, let me just unbox it for you live on air. So this is one Toastmaster document that travels to you the fastest. Once you have qualified as a DTM, it takes a mere 8 to 10 days, no matter where you are in the world. And second only to a Toastmaster chartering document, this is the fastest traveling document of Toastmasters. So if you get something like this, what's the harm? I mean, it reminds you that you were instrumental in making this world a better place. What could be a greater reward than that? Over to you, Toastmaster Vakar.
Thank you very much, DTM Talha bin Hamid, for such a wonderful, motivating, mesmerizing, and fascinating session. I must say, we all enjoyed it. So with that, we move to third part of our today's session, which will be conducted by a very junior Toastmaster, that is none other than Toastmaster Waqar Manzoor. With a bigger round of applause for myself. All right. So by now, I hope most of